congratulations.
It's an instinct that I've always had, and I'm super confident in my ability.
This is Hollywood, after all, and last night, Victor Wembanyama, he starred in a blockbuster at Crypto.com Arena. The Spurs, he set a record for that franchise. He recorded 25 points in the first quarter. By the way, he's also the youngest Spur to have a 25-point quarter ever in the game. And think about the list of insane legends that have played for that franchise. And the scoring, it didn't stop Victor, right? It didn't stop after the first. He finished with 37 points in the first half. And just to put that into a little bit of perspective, that is the most in any half by a Spurs player in the play-by-play era. That goes all the way back to '97, so that includes Tim Duncan's entire career. And Wemby continues his California coastal trip. A little visit to the Golden State Warriors tonight, and he's been dominant against Golden State. He's put up 27, 11, 5 in 6 games in his career, but has only 1 win in those 6 meetings. And with Wemby taking on the Warriors tonight right here on ESPN, our Golden State reporter, Anthony Slater, he released his latest story on the state of the Warriors post-trade deadline. It's out right now on ESPN.com. There is so much in this story here as Victor heads to Golden State. So with us now is our reporter, Anthony Slater, to take us inside this post-deadline era for the Golden State Warriors. But let's start with tonight here, Slater. The Warriors, they have a very literal tall task in dealing with Victor Wembanyama. So how would you describe how the Warriors are feeling about this matchup?
Yeah, you mentioned Wembanyama's lack of success against the Warriors. That's 2 losses in San Antonio earlier this season, but you'll probably remember Steph Curry, 46 points and 44 points in those games. He's out tonight. Runner's knee, we've talked about the reasoning for it, but they're being cautious. They're going to sit him through the break. People are not going to see him in Los Angeles, which is, not great for the league. But they're targeting that first game out of the break, February 19th against the Celtics. Steve Kerr has said he's optimistic Steph will play that night, and Kristaps Porzingis can potentially debut that night. Porzingis is going to stay in the Bay and kind of work his way towards that game. And then as far as dealing with Wembanyama, I mean, look, we're going to be looking at the Draymond Green-Wembanyama matchup tonight. Yep. They had you remember that spectacular alley-oop that didn't count in the last matchup. Also, I would say Al Horford and Guy Santos, part of their reformed front court since the trade deadline, are both playing extremely well right now.
Yeah, it's going to be something to watch whenever Draymond and Victor match up. And it is the second night of a back-to-back for Vic, but he said last night that he plans to play in this one. Slater, going a little bit more big picture here, you went into detail on Jonathan Kuminga and his 5-year tenure. Before we officially close this chapter, and I don't ask you about it anymore because we've talked a lot about this over the last couple of months, what can you tell us now that the saga is over, and what does that say about the Warriors as a whole right now?
Yeah, the internet today obviously globbed onto that one detail I had within there about
detail?
One of his one of his friends, taking too much food in the Warriors in a tense meeting with Steve Kerr on December 10th in his office. One of the things that he was kind of dinging Kuminga about, and it was just an example of the toxicity of where this relationship got to. Petty was the term many people used, and it was. It had deteriorated to this point over 5 years because what I tried to lay out was 2 reasons. Number one, the coach and player just had completely misaligned views of where he was going. Jonathan Kuminga wants to be, an advantage creator, a guy with the ball in his hands. Steve Kerr, over the last few years, has made it clear he wants him to be more in the Andre Iguodala role. He's mentioned Sean Marion, Aaron Gordon, those type of players. But the real misalignment that goes back to the beginning is a front office, led by Joe Lacob, who really, was central to the drafting of Jonathan Kuminga, who just failed to move off Kuminga at various times, despite knowing the coach, the Hall of Fame coach that they were going to keep in with the system and the roster, wasn't going to fit with the player who had different views of his career. And it kind of led to the moment where, look, we spent all summer talking about it. We're still talking about it to this point, and it dragged on way too long, and that became very clear. Yeah,
I'm happy that Jonathan Kuminga gets a fresh start here because he's such a talented player. He just needs a chance and a runway. And if we're getting to the point where we are dissolving into whether or not someone's friend took too much free food, then I think it's time to just have a little bit of a fresh start here. Slater, I promise-ish that this is the last time I'm going to ask you about it. Thank you so very much for your time and joining us here on NBA Today, my friend.